felt that some birds were clearly birds, and others were somehow less bird-like than others. So there's no harsh cut-off point demarcated by those necessary and sufficient conditions. Rather, there's a blurring and a chaining away from the prototypes that mark the centre of that category towards other sorts of categories. Okay, now, how does that relate to knowledge? Well, it seems to me that Roche's work on birds, and a little bit of work that I've done in terms of performance, also in a way applies to our understanding of knowledge in the abstract as a kind of paradigmatic understanding. When we talk about knowledge, we tend to talk about it as a kind of category of thought or category of experience. And as I've found myself making some of these videos, it's quite a hard category of experience from which to derive necessary and sufficient conditions. Is my perception of this tree knowledge, or is that a perception? Is an imaginative fantasy I may make up in my mind knowledge, or is that something different? Is an optical illusion knowledge, or is that something different? Is spiritual or occult knowledge really knowledge, or is that different? Is knowledge which is subsequently proved to be incorrect still knowledge, or does it cease to become knowledge? And if it does cease to become knowledge, what does it become? And so on. So there's lots of problems with the categorization of knowledge, but only if one is assuming a set of necessary and sufficient conditions, a set of criteria marking a boundary line around the general concept of knowledge, which makes for that relatively simple separation between what is knowledge and what isn't. In the spirit of Eleanor Roche, it's more likely that when we talk about knowledge, or at least when I'm talking about knowledge in these terms, that what's also happening, in addition to possible classical categorization, there is also this categorization by prototype that's in Roche and in Lakoff and so on, in which one establishes, probably non-consciously, a prototypical case, or a set of closely related prototypical cases or examples of members of the category, and then other members of that category acquire membership by connection to the prototype. So in the case of knowledge, this is where I think I'm going with this, in the case of knowledge, what constitutes a prototypical member of that category? And that's more difficult. Certainly in empirical terms, and probably in the dominant mode of knowledge distribution, and also probably for good reason, the prototypical example of a piece of knowledge would be what Perkins refers to as possessive knowledge. Something, a kind of hard fact, if you like, something that's interpersonally available, something that aspires to permanence and aspires to clear delineation. A hard fact, as I think I said, so it has this, so metaphorically speaking, has a quality of, a substantive quality of something hard, and it's somehow sort of out there, objective. And by objective, I guess what I mean is that it doesn't vary from one person's perception of that item of knowledge to another's. So a very common prototype for knowledge would be something like an item of possessive knowledge, a hard fact, an interpersonal fact, a fact which aspires to permanence. In fact, all of the ambitions of the empirical sciences and positivist approaches to philosophical knowledge, in a sense, try to identify that prototype, and I think there is a good case for the success of that, in which knowledge is cast as a kind of rock, emerging from some sort of geological processing and having that solidity and permanence that rocks can have. There are moves to talk about other types of knowledge and to make a case for the existence of perhaps either other prototypical cases or of relatively close links or close associations between other types of knowledge and the rock-solid empirical facts of the positivist prototype. I'm thinking here about performative knowledge or tacit knowledge, or something which we try to find a way of connecting. And it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that one of the, if not purposes, and at least side effects of this project that I'm engaged in, which is to do with this image schema of knowledge, is the formation of a set of connections, sort of metaphorical connections between the rock-hard facts out there in interpersonal brightly lit space, connected via the affordances of the body and the unifications of the senses, the sensuous communists of lived experience, connecting those hard visualized facts, if you like, to the soft guts of inner experience.